Hi.
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
All right, my friends, once again, it's time to get our talk on this morning. Talk with me, your host, J.C. McCauley, along with the champions of talk. This morning, we've got Dr. Maya Bowen, Luis Delgado, and none other than Alfonso McGriff III. Start off here with Dr. Bowen. Good morning, Dr. Bowen. How are you?
Good morning, everyone. We've got a whole crew in the studio today.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. I'm loving the season is changing, kind of, sort of, but this weekend was kind of interesting with the storm that was rolling through and just the varying temperatures.
Mm-hmm.
So it limited me on how much I actually could get done, but it was a nice, peaceful weekend for me.
Good weekend, huh?
No complaints for me.
Very good. We also have in the house none other than Luis Delgado. Good morning, Mr. Delgado. How you doing?
Hi, Stan. Hi. Good morning to all our viewers and listeners. I had a really good weekend. I mean, my weekends are pretty much, I either do a little bit of work and spend time with the family or just spend time with the family. My wife and I enjoy doing like little day trips. We'll go out somewhere and get some ice cream, spend an hour or two out and come home. And so it was really good. Really, really good.
All right. None other than the one and only Alfonso McGriff III. Mr. McGriff, how you doing, sir?
I have no complaints as usual. Weekend was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Weekends and days and hours and minutes free are spent finishing this book. I had a little interruption for a minute there. I had to suddenly move from where I was living for 17 years and find another place and to settle into that place. So that took a little time off. Higher than ever. I learned that word from James Brown. I'm settled now. I call my place the Oasis in the Hood. And it's the perfect place for me to spend time finishing this book and getting it done.
All right. Sounds like everybody had a good weekend. So,
how about you, Stan? How was your weekend?
My weekend was good. What did I do this weekend? I think I worked on my car. That's about it. Yeah. I had a great weekend. I mean, my weekends are always good. I have no complaints. No complaints.
Good to hear that, brother. Good to hear
that. Nothing fantabulous happened. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So look, I want to jump right in, man, and talk a little bit about. I was talking to my wife about this morning,
mm-hmm.
and it seems like we're having like a huge surge in crime again. I think we had 2 killings this week. Monday and last night.
Yeah, I was going to say something yesterday. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think we had, like the last couple weeks, there's been some real violence in the city. So I'd like to get some feedback from our listeners and our viewers about that. How they feeling about that right now. Does the community feel safe? Let's get this conversation going.
As it relates to crime
in the city, yes.
In the city, I feel safe. Do you feel safe?
I do feel safe, but I don't live in the neighborhoods where there's more violence for whatever the reason is. Well, I live in a neighborhood in the south end of Hartford that's relatively quiet.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some stuff down there. I live off of New Britain Avenue. But for the most part, it's relatively quiet.
Well, over by Parkville Market, you had this carjacking. It's right there by the lofts.
Yes.
Parkville, right there at the entrance. So
that's a really brazen act
during
daytime hours.
Right. And you had the kids. Well, I shouldn't say kids. You had somebody put like an M80 or something on one of the downtown plate glass windows near Harvey and Lewis on Pratt Street.
Wow.
Blew out not Pratt Street, on Asylum, and blew out blew a hole in the. This was during the day.
Wow.
Crime is something that's it's I don't know how you intervene and stop people from being knuckleheads and putting their wants, needs, and desires above everyone else, just taken from criminals. How do you if we could stop crime, we would. Whoever comes up with that formula is gonna be quite the criminal scientist. Police can't be everywhere. So
well, I'm going to push back on that, Stan, a little bit, and I'm going to say, like I've been saying every week, in terms of education and in terms of everything else, but our children in school know that their interest is not what's happening in those schools, their education, and they understand that, and that's why they're rebelling against that. And I think that in cities like Hartford, and I said this before, I think that if we have a different leadership, things would be different in terms of crime and other things. The quality of life would be a lot different for our citizenry.
I don't know. That presupposes that it's the youth that's doing the crime. I don't think so.
No, I'm not talking about. I'm not just talking about the youth, though. I'm just saying in general, Stan. Not just the youth. I'm talking about the youth. They do commit crime, but I'm talking about them in terms of acting out and rebelling in education. What I'm saying?
And that's in general, right? Because I know Chicago's run by all kinds of people of color. They got crime off the hook.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I don't think the color of the individual has anything to do with it, because it's the you can, all kinfolk ain't skin folk. So just because they're a particular hue doesn't mean.
It's the other way around, Stan.
Huh?
The other way around.
All skin
folk ain't kinfolk.
What did I say?
You said it backwards.
All kinfolk ain't skin folk?
Yeah.
I think it works both ways.
How about that, man? Yeah,
But,
that's interesting to hear you say stuff like that, because I think that cities like Chicago are kind of what our society is going to look like in terms of all poor people, but particularly people of color, if we allow the government and the big corporations to just throw money at problems without having the least bit of, want to fix anything. You know what I'm saying? So that's something to think about.
It's, if I step in just a little bit, I was alluding to something I found online by W.E.B. Du Bois, and he said a system cannot fail those it was never built to protect. And let that settle in for a little bit, right? And so, we live in a society that consists of multiple systems, and all of these systems have one thing in common: human beings at the helm of some portion of this big global system. And so when you start looking at the human factor, there's a lot to consider, because people in leadership get there not per chance, right? It's for purpose, on purpose, by purpose. And so, leadership, essentially, they have a lot of influence on individuals that they oversee who are in the lower tiers. And if it is that, the leadership is conducting themselves based on their psychology, how they think, and that's influencing others' behavior, then we see the madness trickle down. And so, for me, when it is that we start talking about our youth, we really can't blame them because we as adults are modeling what is quote unquote okay in society, and they're just picking up from our cues. And so when we start pointing the finger at them, we need to immediately run to a mirror and start looking at ourselves as what it is that we are broadcasting or modeling for them, and really and truly begin to think about what it is that we need to change about ourselves so that we could hopefully redirect the course of action and behaviors that are actually being portrayed as negative. And sadly, negative behavior is much more embraced than quote unquote good or positive behavior. That's the sad thing about it. That's the psychology behind it. It's a wild dynamic going on here. And so it didn't just start with us waking up yesterday and everything was kind of chaotic. This has been going on for centuries. And to try to right this ship means that individuals individually would have to look at the man, woman in the mirror and say, what do I need to do to make a change? And Michael Jackson had it right, so I'm just throwing MJ out there. But it's bigger than us, but it really and truly starts with us individually in order to begin to correct a lot of the errors of humanity's ways.
That's beautifully stated, Dr. Maya. And I've been saying that every week. We can't look for the answers to our problems from the people who created them. And there's a beautiful African proverb, I'm not sure if I have it correct, but it says that if a child does not feel the warmth of the village, he will burn it down. And to me, that's what a lot of our kids do. You know what I'm saying? They don't feel that warmth from the village, so they turn and do something else.
I would say some of our kids do.
Yes.
Not a lot. Some.
No. I agree.
I think sometimes when we talk about some of these problems, the picture is, the paintbrush is too broad. Those who are troubled may not have good role models or good examples, or the reflection they see in the mirror being adults of some sort, some kind. But most of the kids are not out doing reckless things. So I think we need to be careful. Well, not careful, but I think we need to state that the problem isn't every kid. Well, certainly not every black kid, every brown kid across the country gripped by some sort of disruptive behavior. The kids that are, some of the adults in their circle need to look in the mirror. But there are plenty of good examples, like Dr. Bowen said. So,
and by the same token, brother, we should also point out that having, great parents and great role models does not guarantee that you're also going to be this great person.
No,
well,
because I think you started out with
that would mean that some of that responsibility is on the individual, and we're not talking about like little 3-year-olds.
Yeah,
we talk about some like. When I was growing up, 18 was considered an adult. Now you're 25 at home still and not an adult.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know about that, Stan. I don't know. I can't co-sign that. I don't think being 25 or being 50 and being at home is an issue. I think we have to take every situation individually.
Well, I said before, in general, not exceptions to the rule.
Yeah. Well, kids, they have to evolve in the way that we're socializing them to evolve. And I think that you're partly right in some of that individual responsibility, but I think that, I think we kind of fall prey to a lot of these phrases, a lot of these little catchy phrases, but when we take a good look at them, they don't apply. I think looking at things individually and how they fit into a bigger conscious, for me, is the way that I approach things.
Well, that's cool. I can dig that. So if we look at it individual, then we can't say all of the kids. So we had to now we talk about individuals who make individual decisions based on their interpretation of things that they see around them. Because if they're raised by great parents and they got a great community and they turn out bad, then it has nothing to do with the environment that they were in, but the conscious decision that they themselves made. So it seems like that the headspace is where they really got to get stuff together. And that's more of an individual decision than it would be who the government is or who the community leaders are or anything like that. You know, because if the village is cool and folks still want to burn it down, then what's the problem at that point?
Steve. Switching the subject just a little bit. Board of Education did have a meeting last night. I don't know if everybody got to see it. I did get to see the latter part of it, and then I had to press the rewind on YouTube to go back and look at it from the beginning. But it never ceases to amaze me how when it is that individuals are presenting before the board members, where there's data coming through colorful graphs and charts. When it is that board members ask questions, there's a huge gap in what it is that said presenters are ready to answer in terms of relevancy to what they presented. And it just leaves me as an audience member just with more questions as well. Are the board members going to get those answers in a reasonable amount of time? And why is it that the presenters don't have those numbers to back up what they're stating? Where, if I paint one side of the picture rosy, I don't have another or opposite measure that gives us some detail of our starting point, right? So, for example, in terms of hiring, there's been a lot of vacancies going on within the Hartford Public School System, but not only in Hartford, but across the country, notably so. However, there's a starting point, and there's a interim point, and then there's a continuation. And so when it is that we started a new strategy for hiring individuals, the number from which we started should have been something that was available per the presentation, right? So if we started at, let's say, a gap of 1,000 vacancies, that number 1,000 should have been something that could have been the start that lent to the 400 plus hires that we actually achieved over a course of time, so that we have some range and to gauge whether or not we're improving, the status quo stays the same, or whether or not we still have more improvement. And so again, with these presentations, for me, it just leaves me with more questions, specifically because it is that in times past, this data is not readily available. So it's like every time a question is asked and that data is not available, then the board members have to request it and wait. And then what happens with, informing the community on an update in terms of saying this is what we received in terms of data to cover the question that was asked last meeting. So yeah, it's an interesting.
That's a great point, Dr. Maya. That's a very good point. It's very frustrating too. Yeah. And I understand what you're saying. It's like they're saying 50% of our students are homeless. And then when one of the board members says, well, can you give us some, how did you get to those numbers? They'll say that those numbers are not available. That's crazy.
That's unacceptable.
That's insane. And the thing that bothers me is because there's implications behind all this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, having dealt with different boards of education, but particularly the one in Hartford, those people have that information. When they say they don't have it, but it's not going to make them look good, and that's why they don't provide it, because they want to show good numbers all the time. That's why we can't fix nothing. Wow. Because they don't give us that accurate information, so we can How you gonna fix something if you don't know what it is?
Unfortunately or unfortunately, it's up to the board member to press that. To press that point. I would say, I'll wait. How much do you get paid a year? What's your? I want to know what's the digits did you go home with at the end of the year?
6 figures.
Are you prepared to remote? Are you prepared to work remotely if you're not at the office? Either way, we'll wait. So, and chair will entertain a motion to
wait for them to go get the answer.
For them to go get the answer. Either they go back to the office or I'll wait. I have time. And then, but no one else would ever bring anything like that. John O'Connell used to do that with budget hearings for the city.
Love. I wish I could have seen that.
That's beautiful.
Department heads would be crying.
Yeah, because they know that they're lying and they're going to lose their job. So I think for me, like people like that, we don't need people in spaces like in our community completely. I don't want them, and those are the type of people that come lying like that. You know how you say you want to get rid of everybody, and I always push back and say we got to retrain and this and that. People who blatantly lie like that need to be not just fired, but it needs to be looked at to see if there's a crime, and then they need to be prosecuted for that. Because we need to set a standard. Yes. You set a standard, because people
I don't
do it anyway.
I don't have a problem with that, but you went from retraining to fire to putting them in jail.
I'm saying them type of people because Stan, listen, in my experience in dealing with organizations like that, the only time people lie so blatantly is because they're stealing. Somebody's stealing. Follow the money trail. This is like the oldest line in the history of business. Follow the money. Why would they lie like that, Stan? So blatantly, man. And go on public record.
Well, if they're
this
lying,
being recorded,
there's no excuse for somebody lying in a forum such as that. If they truly don't have access to the information, that's cool. Go get it now.
Well, for me, how would you not have access? Because you came with the part of the information. So that means that whatever you came up with, you have. It's on your computer. You have access to it. Otherwise, why would you come to a meeting and not be prepared? I have taken superintendents and staff to task. I've ended meetings on the spot because I say, no, you're not prepared for this meeting. Why are we going to have it? If you don't have the paperwork necessary to conduct this meeting, what are we sitting here for? You know what I'm saying?
I'll answer that question. Why do they come, as you say, unprepared? One of the reasons why they come, as you say, unprepared is because there's a long history of getting away with handling things that way. You just say what you say, people listen and agree with it, and then keep it moving. So there's a conscious awareness that they aren't going to get checked. And then all of a sudden when somebody checks them, we say, well, they came unprepared. Well, they were just handling things the way they normally handle things, and somebody checked them and threw a wrench in the game. But a lot of people come and present and get listened to, and that's it. And
they go about their happy way.
And
so, I would say the board member is the one who, the only people who can push this back is the board and the chair, members in the chair.
And I just want to say, Griff, you make an outstanding point, but I just want to say also to piggyback on that is one of the strategies, right, that white people have used to keep us from going there. I remember when I worked in New Britain, and the dude that was my supervisor, a white man, knew that they were trying to criminalize me, knew that it was a lie, and never stepped forward. But he did say this: don't worry about it. It'll all go away in a couple days. That's what Griff's talking about. just let it blow over. That's what they're waiting for.
Path of least resistance. A lot of people go along to get along.
Very
they don't
good point,
Griff.
Griff.
They don't want to make any waves, and
that's a strategy that they use at every level. Because think about it, every time there's a protest, it's exactly what Griff said right now. They listen to it, and then that's it. It's done.
Well, that could very well be, but in Hartford, all of the people we're talking about are non-white folk.
Well, that's all learned behavior, brother.
Well,
that's all learned behavior because they got to play the game.
At some point, they got to be individually responsible for their own actions. You can't blame that on nobody but themselves. If you are required to have information, let me rephrase that. I don't expect you to have all information at your fingertips, but I do expect you to be able to answer any question that comes under the purview of the responsibility that you hold. If I ask you a question, you don't know the answer, I'm good with that. Go get it.
Well, now, the other thing is, brother, that if you have that, if you're going to come with a report, then you should be ready to defend it, with information.
Absolutely, but the defense of the report, I don't know what questions someone's going to ask me. Generally, nobody asks me any questions. Now all of a sudden, I got to answer questions. But I can get that. So if someone says, "Well, look, I have the information, I just don't have it with me," checkmate. Okay, go get it. If you have it, go get. You know where it is. Go get it.
Yeah.
And until that happens. It's like offering somebody a glass of water because they never drink water. They don't never drink anything. So you offer them because you just do it. Seems polite. But then one time they say, actually, I will have some water. And now you jammed up. Because, you really want water? Yeah. You offered? Oh, well, okay, well, let me see what I can do.
And you don't get the water anyway.
Because I don't have any. Now I'm caught with my hand in a cookie jar. Either they have the information. They should all the information they have. Assessing the information may be an issue. So people should say, we will wait. There's no rush to get through the meeting. Take your time.
I have a follow-up question for Dr. Maya. Dr. Maya, when this person gave the report, and they were asked a question, and then they stated that whatever it was they said in terms of those numbers are not available or something. So what was the response of the superintendent?
The superintendent is always very hush. There's a silence of the lambs type feel in the room when it is that
silence of the lambs. That's awful.
Certain things.
That is pretty bad.
Certain things are actually stated,
So you're actually saying that she thinks she's going to be killed if she says anything, because that's what silence of the lamb means.
I'm just, the thing is that the silence is deafening, right? Yeah. So one as an audience member, when it is that you would think that someone would step in and say, you know what. We have those numbers right here versus, the presenter, having this kind of like pregnant pause and then kind of like looking into the air to try to see whether or not the answers are going to fall down from some invisible cloud or something like that. When essentially right in front of the individual is the computer that contains said information. At that point, I think, like Stan said, we'll wait. You're like a board member needed to step in and state, you know what? Well, or address the chair and say, Mr. Chair, can we wait for that information to be gathered per this question? Because, I would really like that now instead of later to bring everything into context. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's in front of a computer. Or a piece of technology, right? You're giving your presentation.
Literally everybody.
From a computer, right? So literally when it is that, you're really grappling with, should I answer this? How can I stall them out? could this be a blow over? Oh, I wasn't expecting this question. Again,
that's awful, Dr. Maya.
The social dynamic is that
they're all conspiring.
Right?
They're all conspiring.
But see, it's
you can say that
it's learned behavior. It's learned behavior, right? We expect that there might be some questions, and we may not have all the answers, and they'll ask us to present it for at a later time. But nobody has of yet said, we'll wait for you to get those answers.
Or in the next meeting, come back and say, hey, did you get that information that I asked for the last meeting?
Well,
and
they
do
should
it publicly.
But then I think that
that's how you get them.
Right.
Do it publicly.
Right. Not to defend the highest paid employee in the city. However, if you delegate a role to somebody, you let them make their presentation. You don't jump in every time you think that you could fill in for them. Either they're going to do the job or they're not going to do the job. I don't know that you publicly address that. But if I ask for information and you say, well, you'll get it to me tomorrow, I wouldn't come on the air next week and say, oh, by the way, last week I had asked Lou for some information. He did give it to me. I mean, the information is supposed to be gotten to them in a timely fashion. I would think that if they didn't get the information they needed, they would say at the next meeting, I've asked. Now, there's one board member that says, I've asked for information repeatedly and still haven't gotten it. And so, in fact, at the last Board of Education meeting that happened, and folk came down and made a kind of on-the-spot presentation.
Unacceptable. That's unacceptable.
It's unacceptable to you. It's unacceptable to me. Maybe unacceptable to all of us. But we're not the ones that it needs to be acceptable to, because as is stated, and everyone should know this is not a public meeting. It is a board meeting held in public. So it would be nice for all the gaps to be filled in for us, but we're not the ones having the meeting. We're allowed to oversee the public meeting because they're doing the business of the public, of the constituency. But the meetings are not public meetings. We don't get to weigh in. That's why we have representatives. So it is a meeting held in the public.
Yeah. I would like to point out another thing that threw me for a very big loop. So one of the board members asked a question related to Harvard Public Schools developing a marketing department specifically. And the individual actually, based on her response, did not understand the question. Because the way that it was answered is that, we own our own marketing images and this, that, and the third. And then it was to the point where the board member was like, I'm done with, I'm not even going to push this because I don't think that this individual understands the question that I asked. Right. So if you're spending, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's either $5 million, which is a lot of money, $5 billion, even more money. Right. If it's $5 million towards marketing, because of that budget, you're actually outsourcing specific types of tasks. The question really and truly, based on what the board member asked, was when are we're spending all this money, but when is it that we're going to take ownership with our own marketing department? And so the way that the presenter responded, I was like, what part of that question was not understood? Because this answer, multiple different types of answers to, I'm like, where's the connect? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, right? If you don't understand a question, you don't begin to answer it based on the pay grade. If you're in a leadership position right there and you didn't understand that question, but you start answering a whole different way, and this is on record, right? Anybody could go see that. The question was plain. It was plain. You couldn't get more straightforward than that. But the answers, did not align with what the original question was. I was like, wait, why? Like, if you didn't understand the question that was asked, why would you use this filler to address this? It was just so bizarre. I was like, oh no, this is recorded.
Full-fledged
Like,
incompetence on display, Dr. Maya.
I'm like, wow. But here's the thing, Lou. When you're getting paid 6 figures, come on. If you didn't understand the question, it's simple to ask, can you, I didn't understand the question. Can you restate the question a different way?
Could be that she misunderstood the question.
Exactly. She totally misunderstood. But I'm saying, like, a marketing department versus marketing materials is 2 different things. 2 different things. So I was like, no, just stop. I had to pause the recording. You know, you could do that on YouTube. So I was like, yeah, that was okay. Yeah, that was totally misunderstood. But I was just taken aback. I'm like, what part of that was missed? Like,
well,
I don't know. It was just weird.
I think part of the problem is that you know, something that Alfonso alluded to earlier or said. The way things have happened in the past sets the tenor and the tone for the way things happen now. And, you know, if people aren't pressed for substantive answers, then they're going to come prepared to kind of like just, you know, for lack of a better way to say it, BS their way through the meeting, say what they think needs to be said because they're in presentation mode and they're trying to sell a good thing. Now, this, in all fairness, this was not a board meeting. It was a workshop. So in that it's a workshop, it's a little bit different. It's the administration giving a workshop on how certain things may be functioning. So I think there's less of a, you know, less of a demand for deliverables as perceived by those making the presentation. But once again, all of this comes down to the board. And so, you know, I don't want to necessarily criticize people, but if you're having a board meeting and some of the people are in the car, other folk is, you know, the stage has to be set for the tenor and tone in which you have expectations. If I don't expect much, then people don't deliver much. You know, they may start off delivering much. Man, Ken only wants me to jump 1 foot. Why do I come here every day jumping 10? So I'll do 1 foot, and I find out that the 1 foot is more than enough. Why jump at all?
Right.
And so if there's no demand being made and no corrections being made when wrong is done, it's no different on any particular job. If you're at a job and the boss doesn't demand much from you, you don't deliver much. So, you know, the management is the board. They manage their single employee, and you know, if they're not happy, they have to say so. But if you have members of the board, respectfully, throwing accolades on how great everybody is at every meeting, what do I walk away with as a person making a presentation? If there's members of the board telling me I'm doing a fabulous job, Cracker Jack job since the sliced cheese came out, then I feel good about myself.
Right.
There's nothing like having a brown nose.
Why would I change anything?
There's nothing like having a brown nose to brown nose, right? It's ridiculous. It's, you know, what is this? This is like, it was like a small time version of an award show. Oh, I'm glad to do this. I'm glad you're doing it great.
So this is just like a little. Stop. This is just like a little show that they put on, like a little act. It's nothing really.
It's not being taken as serious. See, for me, here's the thing.
And
if
all board members
was in the
weren't
hospital,
present.
if a hospital, and in a hospital, somebody is deemed to be placed on life support, and we viewed Harvard Public Schools as being said patient that needs to be placed on life support, then we got some doctors and nurses that are meandering around, and we're gonna lose this patient.
Yes, that's a fact. I see it. That's a fact. That's a fact. But one of the reasons that I took on with others that battle to get rid of Beth Narvaez is because she had 12 or 13 assistant superintendents that didn't supervise anybody, and nobody supervised them. So that was like some real gangster stuff. You know what I'm saying? You kind of just show up to work and, look good and kind of play the part, and that's it. There's nothing else to it. And people at the Board of Ed were okay with that. But see, here's the thing that I'm getting out of this too. It sounds like there's been Board of Ed members who have asked Board of Ed employees for information during these all kinds of meetings, and they have been told that those numbers are not available, and the superintendent has kind of sat there and co-signed that answer by not speaking up.
I'm
just asking a question. That's all.
So here it is. I'll rephrase what you're actually saying. So the board members will ask the Harvard Public School staff or administration for numbers, right? It's not that employees, right? It's not that the numbers are not available per se. They're not ready to give them those numbers because they didn't bring those numbers with them to the presentation. So the request has been for it to be provided at a later date. Now, here's the thing. At that later date, in terms of follow-up, I'm listening for whether or not old business will be brought up into the meeting related to what was requested by the board member from the previous meeting. And I'm not hearing that, right? In terms of being addressed. As a matter of fact, the sad thing about it is it seems as though the chair is more enthusiastic about running an efficient meeting in terms of time and speed, addressing what issues need to be really unpacked, right? So the real thing that needs to be considered in terms of whether somebody's elected or appointed as a board member is what they see their role is, and whether or not they even work and talk and have an understanding of how it is that they want to make sure that certain things are addressed and righted or corrected or resolved within this system. And so, it's fractional, it's brown nose this, and it's popcorn this. Let's take a popcorn moment. Like, are you serious?
Dr. Meyer.
It's like, what are we doing? Right? I'm watching this. This is recorded. So to the business of saying, okay, we're going to be here as long as it takes to unpack what needs to be unpacked versus, we ran an efficient meeting. We're out in like 45 minutes or an hour.
15 minutes. Yeah, 15 minutes better than the last time. Yeah.
Are you serious? So you know going in that you're going to be volunteering your time because none of them are paid. By the way, I would say that with all the money that is out there, that these members should actually get a stipend. That's just me. They're putting in a lot of work. I'm doing air quotes because that's not, everybody. So I can't speak for everybody. Now, maybe they are. But what's being presented is like, come on, yeah. As a collective, right? Because, when it is that something needs to be voted down, and I'm sitting here looking like, have they really considered what they're about to do in terms of placing this vote and the majority rules, right? And so it's like when they vote for something and the majority rules, I'm like, what is the thinking? What is the rationale for them providing that vote, right? And then on the opposite end, for those that voted no to that, they had a rationale behind that. And then I think that it would be best served if we knew why it is that they voted that way. Like literally, Lou. Now I don't know if you saw the board meeting at Weaver, but literally, I think we talked about this, but a board member said their constituency did not want them to vote yay for the 1-year extension for the superintendent. And
yeah,
that member did. It was just weird. I'm like, what? Yeah. Why would you say that? Why would you premise that? Nobody would have known that if you did not state that. So I mean, it may be chalked up to youth and inexperience for doing that, but I think that really and truly, it may be like that for several that voted in that way as well. So she just, through spoken word, just kind of like
she put it out there.
Yeah, she put it out there though.
So, so Dr. Maya,
for good or worse, better or worse, it's out there. But
let me interject really, for a moment. I just want to say that thanks to Griff, to Alfonso McGriff III, I'm going to coin that phase the Griff, because that's when they talk about something like Griff said, and they don't do nothing. Because that's exactly what it sounds like happened at that Board of Ed meeting. Now, in terms of getting paid, I agree that people who work should get paid. I don't volunteer for nothing. You know what I'm saying? That's out. Volunteering is for very rich people who have nothing to do. But regular people like us, we should get paid for everything, for our thoughts, our intellectual rights, everything. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just putting that out there. But yeah, I think that, we're going to call that the Griff. When these politicians and bureaucrats get together and talk about everything and then walk away, and that's it. Nothing happens. There's no results, no nothing. You just got griffed. I like that.
Yeah.
Yes, the brother hit the nail on the head, man. But and so we have a lot of people that are collaborating, and I don't think that they understand that they're collaborating and conspiring, right, to do wrong. And so I think, Dr. Maya, to answer your question, and I don't know this to be a fact, but I think these board members, when they go to their little training for Board of Education members, you have to go through a training. I think they're told how to vote and what the expectation is. And most of these people are handpicked, even the ones that are elected, because they're pushed to run by other bureaucrats. You know what I'm saying?
We're in a system. We're in a system. Be that as it may. But at the end of the day, here's the thing. I stopped to think about whether or not there is a type of morality, integrity aspect tied into, politicians. And I mean, like, there's no credential that says you have to be a moral person or have integrity to be a politician. And so it's a slippery slope, whether or not you're on record or off the record, essentially the decisions that are being made, somebody's going to be impacted directly or indirectly by it. And so sadly, we've got a lot of work to do within society, individually and collectively, because the way things are going, it's not going to right itself. And individuals really need to, really take a look in the mirror and think about what's being played out and how it impacts people. And, it's a lot of dynamics, Lou. It's just wow. It's like the Wild Wild West.
So I say this a lot on the show, but no change in the history of mankind has happened without a conscience. Right? A conscience has to take place, whether it's in a family or in an individual or in a community or in a country, right? But a conscience has to take place. Now, I've asked this family here, our viewers and our listeners, that my conscience, the conscience that I want to create, is to get rid of Luke Bronin and Jason Thody and others like them that are, in my opinion, they're nothing more than criminals, like a 3-bit hood and a 2-piece suit, or a 2-bit hood and a 3-piece suit, right? Whatever it is, right? But and then also with that same consciousness, right? Create a consciousness to bring in some people from our community that are going to bring make the necessary changes, whatever they may be. I talk about creating a program from an Afro-Indigenous perspective with no European influence. We don't know what that looks like because we don't have anything like that in Hartford.
Right. I don't know if we'll ever find out what that looks like.
We will.
Actually,
we will, because there's a lot of stuff that's going on already.
Actually, creating a program like that is a byproduct of European influence, because it's being done based on the so-called presence or influence of Europeans. I think one of the biggest challenges for us is to simply create programs and do things because they're in our best interest, in spite of all else going on around us. Because if we create things that are a reaction to somebody or something, then that somebody or something still owns us, even in our attempt to become free and independent of that somebody and something. So it has to always be simply because it's in our own best interest, and that's it. That has to be the foundation it stands on, because that is the best foundation we can use to create what it is we need. That's the best place to begin from. Otherwise,
that's a very powerful statement, brother.
Mm-hmm.
A very powerful statement, and I like it. It says a lot. It's something that we have to kind of process and let it run through, but I agree with that, because that's how I live my life. I do things based on what's best for me, not what's best on what the market says or social media or whatever,
or a reaction to white people,
or well, sometimes a reaction to things like that is more of a defense than anything. But yes, I agree with that, Alfonso.
If we react should not to anybody of any persuasion to do something we're doing, they own us.
I agree with that.
And the only way they don't own us is when we do it from the foundation that's in our best interest, and that's it, period.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful blessing. Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us, Fonz. Beautiful.
So yeah, you know what? I'm gonna step out on this. That moving in my best interest and not being owned is a journey I'm willing to take.
All right.
Absolutely.
Beautiful, Dr. Maya.
All right. Well, it is 9:00.
All right.
Let's take a quick break, and then we will be right back. Morning Talk. Don't go anywhere. More to come.
Hi, my name is Marisha Garcia. I am from Brazil. I help HPU. I help families de Universidade de Harvard Community. Estou muito feliz em participar. É muito importante o engajamento deles padres e madres nas escolas de Hartford com seus ninhos, my children. I love helping family e HPU. Thank you. Gracias. Obrigado.
So my name is Nelky Maldonado.
My name is Ramon L. Arroyo.
And we know that Hartford Parent University provides good services and resources to parents in our communities, which are greatly needed because a lot of times our parents, they don't know where to go, how to get information, and being part of this program is essential to them in being successful in their children's education.
And I think that parents should get involved in their kids' education because it's very important. Education is, I always believe, is a success in life. If you got a good education, you can be very successful.
So we encourage our parents to please come join the program, ask lots of questions, and I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed.
It's Morning Talk. J.C. McCauley along with the champions of Talk in studio. We have Alfonso McGriff III and Luis Delgado. And we're getting our talk on. So let's jump back into a conversation. Let's start off here with Mr. McGriff. What's on your mind there, brother?
Lately I've been thinking about the difference between the storyline and what is the other word I was trying to think of? The difference between the storyline and the narrative. Okay. And sitting back watching us. When I say us, I'm talking about us black folks, you know. Mm-hmm. We are governed by the storyline, which makes us vulnerable to 100% pure manipulation. And so there are 3 movies in particular I want to use as an example, and a most recent occurrence that I want to use as examples with my man Kanye. Okay, so first I'll talk about the movie Soul Food. It was the first time that I began to recognize this storyline versus narrative thing. Now, the foundation that I'm standing on is that there is a narrative in the United States that would suggest that there is an unrelenting attempt by some people in this country, many of them who have a lot of power, to present black people as less than human beings, as some type of animals or, you know, just foul people who deserve what happens to us in this country. And so there are people in a position of power whose objective is to keep that narrative going so that when people from other countries come here, they have something in common because of the narrative that's being presented. They have something in common with the narrative creators, which is how they feel about black folks. And what helped me look at this was when I was young, I watched karate movies. You probably heard me say this before. And my introduction to Asian culture was karate movies. So, ignorantly, naturally, because of the influence on watching karate movies at the Colonial every week, I just assumed that all Asians were Chinese and they all knew karate. Because of how that's how I was introduced to their culture. A lot of us black people in this country, we don't understand that it works the same way in other countries. How they're introduced to us, whether it be through movies or videos, is how they see black culture in America. And they have a true judgment on it. Like I did. When I went in the Chinese restaurants, I would look and I'd be like, he probably know karate. You know, and I would think he's Chinese. I didn't think of any other kind of
right. Yeah, Japanese.
Yeah. So with that in mind, the narrative that has been pushed for quite some time is one that black people are angry and destructive and animals. So with this narrative in mind, I watched the movie Soul Food, which is my #1 most hated movie. And it was the first time I saw it. And I'm watching this movie and I'm watching every character be presented as just ignorant and self-destructive, to put it quick. Even Big Mama, ignorant and self-destructive. She got diabetes. She burned in her arm, can't even feel it because of what's going on with her health. And every Sunday she's feeding the food to the people that got her in the condition she's in. So I'm watching this going on. So in essence, there are two movies being presented at the same time. There's a movie being presented where we, black folks, pay attention to the storyline. And because we can identify with the storyline, we think it's wonderful. Whereas the rest of the world is being presented with a narrative about black people. Okay? That's just a quick one on Soul Food. Black Panther, my second most hated movie ever. Again, there is a storyline. You know, we look wonderful, we rich, we black, we, you know, fly and powerful and all of this stuff. But then there's the narrative that makes sure that we're presented as these savages. And so the next thing you know, we're in a field, black men and black women trying to kill each other. And we left the movie doing the electric boogie slide and backflips because we're thinking about the storyline. And the narrative is what the rest of the world sees. And the narrative is that, look at these, even with money and all of this riches, these Negroes don't know how to act. They're out here in the field trying to kill each other. They get a little bit of power and boom, boom, boom. So the narrative, again, we're being presented as these savages. So now Black Panther was a movie that had both black men and women leaving the theater feeling great. Oh yeah, Black Panther, Wakanda forever. It was almost like the Rocky thing. The Italians thought Rocky was a real boxer. Matter of fact, Rocky got inducted into the Boxing Hall of Fame.
Rocky,
the statue of him in front of
a fictional figure.
This is what I'm saying.
Yes.
So we're running around here Wakanda like the Italians were for Rocky. So we have focused on the storyline, and we don't see we had a black man in a cave beating up an elder black woman while the other black people stood around and watched. And then, like I said, the scene where we're out in the field, I don't care what the reason for, is a big scene with us trying to kill each other. That's the narrative. Black people were caught up in the storyline. So we don't
see the narrative.
We don't see
that's
the
being
narrative
presented about us all over the world.
And the beautiful thing is that the beautiful thing about this viciousness is we leave feeling good about being totally destroyed.
Self-destruction.
Okay. What is it called? Woman King or something like that?
Yeah. That's the new one now.
That's a new
Okay. I go see Woman King.
Mm-hmm.
Storyline, the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Again, black folks are caught up in the storyline, but they're missing the narrative of how black men are being totally destroyed in that movie. And one of the aggravating parts of watching that was, it was a part in the movie where these sisters had planted these fake anthills and put bombs in them, and the so-called enemy just saw them as anthills. They didn't know these were explosions. And all of these women were standing on the hill ready to fight. Now, mind you, this is another scene where a bunch of black women and black men are trying to kill each other. It's the same narrative as Black Panther. But there's a scene, it gotta be a scene with us in the field trying to kill each other. But before that, this to me represented the epitome of the destruction of the black male in this movie. And I not even to name all the other stuff, just this one scene. These women ready to go down and fight these black men, and they are ready to attack, right? But they want to light the anthills first to create chaos, because the enemy has settled into the areas where the anthills are. So these bombs are going to create havoc with them. So the women are standing on the hill and they're ready to go down and fight these men, and they go, because it's all black people. And the one black man that shows up, he comes up. You ever seen that Bart Simpson where he slides into the bushes? You know, it's like a little short scene where it's almost like he's saying, I don't want no parts of this. So it's a cartoon scene where he slides into the bushes and disappears.
Okay.
Well, anyway, this is the opposite. All these women ready to fight, and this big burly black man comes out of the bushes and just hands her the torch to light the anthill. And then he's back in the bushes, and we don't see this big burly black man ever again, not even in the fight scene.
So he's hiding.
Not necessarily that he's hiding, but he's not relevant.
Oh, okay.
In a situation where it's about to be this huge fight.
Right.
And so
that's very relevant to what goes on in our society today.
Griff,
yes.
So the narrative is this anti-black male thing, which is kind of going on in a little bit circling the society. But the difference between Woman King, and we don't even want to start addressing the title, Woman King and Black Panther, is Black Panther left both men and women leaving there feeling wonderful. And it had black women leaving Woman King feeling powerful without necessarily being aware or even caring how weak and feeble the black man was being presented in that movie. So again, we miss the narrative because we get caught up in the storyline. But the narrative is consistent always. These people are savages. And we're going to continue with the narrative. Now, let me talk about the narrative and the storyline with Kanye West. And it's kind of like even what I was saying earlier. Kanye West, he goes to this fashion show and he puts on T-shirts that say White Lives Matter.
Well, yeah, with Candace Owens, yeah.
Yeah, White Lives Matter. And what's his name? Roland calls him an a-hole, and
Roland Martin.
Dr. Boyce calls him ignorant and stupid, and this other black sportscaster, calls him dangerous. And all of this stuff, all these black people up in arms. The first thing is just a universal understanding that when you have such a emotional reaction to an individual for choosing to do what they want to do, then they own you. We always talking about this desire to be free, when we constantly allow ourselves to be owned because of our emotions, simply because we don't agree with what somebody else thinks or what somebody else does. And so we allow ourselves to be owned by that person. Now the storyline is, Kanye West, fashion designer, rapper, producer, all of this stuff, and he has his own clothes, and he has his own clothes. One of the and the narrative that the people with power are presenting is that he's crazy, and he's anti-black, which keeps us away from him and any emotional reactions to what he does. Now, because we don't understand business on a certain level of a lot of these people, for all we know, Kanye West might be getting ready to release another line of clothing or another sneaker, and he's doing something to put his name out there in the media because he knows, some people call it trolling, he knows how you're going to react. Exactly. He knows he owns you. Yeah. So that's not an a-hole.
He stays relevant.
That's brilliant. That's a person understanding the reality that they're operating in and knowing how to use it. But our emotions are so caught up in how they want to present his narrative as he's crazy. His mother's rolling in the grave. Anybody who saw anything about his mother would know Kanye West's mother would have been down with him, whatever he chose to do. Long as he wasn't trying to kill somebody, she would have had his back. 1,000%.
What is your statement earlier, Griff? What is your statement earlier? Let's go back to that for a minute.
What statement?
The one you talk about, doing it for you.
But this is the whole. This is where I'm at with Kanye West. The point that I'm making. Well, no, I don't want to mix that up with what I'm talking about right now. What I'm talking about right now is how we continue to be duped into following a storyline and missing the narrative. And the narrative on Kanye, how they present him in their media that they control, they present him like he's crazy. So they don't want us to see that he has a house somewhere in like Wyoming where he owns 300 acres of land just on that particular house. They don't want us to. They are so good with this. They help us dismiss the fact that this dude came out of Chicago in the heart of the situation, at the height of the heart of the situation, and he's a billionaire now. They want us to just bypass all of that and roll with their narrative that he's crazy,
right?
And keep and so we run around, and now we're parroting the narrative that he's crazy, he's an a-hole, he's this, he's that, or whatever. And the most horrible thing about it all is we don't have the wherewithal. We don't have the wherewithal to ask ourselves, why is he doing this? And maybe he's doing it for a reason I don't understand. Because there's clearly a whole lot more going on in this planet that we don't understand than what it is that we do.
Absolutely.
But we get ourselves convinced that we know stuff. And we don't know stuff.
We don't know hardly anything.
Anything compared to all there is to know out here.
Mm-hmm.
So my only point, the point that I wanted to make is that we continue to be manipulated and participating in the manipulation. And I'm talking about the people that participated in making the movies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what kind of conversation goes on with the director and these black actors and actresses? I'm gonna need y'all to be in the field trying to kill each other. How does that discussion take place? How do you rationalize that discussion and that action with what's going on in general, unless you are totally oblivious to black life in America? So how do those discussions take place? But ultimately, I would like for us to be more aware of the narrative that we're presenting to the world, and less mesmerized by the storyline and caught up in the storyline. Because as long as we can be caught up in the storyline, then we can participate in our own destruction to their narrative.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Beautifully stated, brother. Beautifully stated.
So now back to what you were saying earlier. My only point is that, and we have to check ourselves even when we say stuff. We it's a way to check ourselves. Well, you know what? If they're gonna be doing it like this, then this is how we gonna do it. They own us.
That's reactionary, yeah.
They own us. Anytime we do anything that is a reaction to anybody or any situation, we are owned. I don't care. And sometimes we have emotional reactions. It's okay. Just know you're owned in that moment.
That's what's
and
up.
Gather yourself.
Yes.
But anytime we're taking actions that we haven't, that's a response to somebody else, and we haven't taken time to think about how our actions will serve our best interest, then we're owned. Period. That has to always be how and why we move. We have to move simply because it's what's best for us.
And that was what I was saying to you when you were speaking about Kanye, is that brother has always done, like you said, he has moved in a way that serves his interests.
Right.
And it's in his best interests.
Right.
So I seen that. I was reading about that. I think last night they had a picture of him and Candace Owens with the shirts, and people were up in arms. But there was a storyline that went with that, and they were like you said, Griff, people were trying to make it seem like there was something wrong with him, because he put that shirt on and other things he's done, and that's interesting, because in this program, many times I always say that anytime that one of us is exalted, by our ancestors because of their great skill set, their great talent, they manage to take them down somehow. Like Griff said, a character assassination by claiming that you're crazy, really? That's not attractive, That's not like they're bestowing you with blessings and stuff like that, So he's not the only one. We've had many,
And the interesting thing, we don't ask the question, besides how to rock a party, when do we hear from Rihanna, Jay-Z, Diddy, and all these other $100 million billionaire people? When do we heard from them when they were coming up, and their concern was black people and black lives and all that kind of stuff. But once they get into the there's this thing where once they get into these hundreds of millions of dollars and billions, they just be quiet because they scared to make the wrong people upset. And at this point, what good is what kind of life you living, man? And more power to them because they're doing what they want to do and what works for them. But man, I have your resume and I can see how you was moving at this time and I see how you moving now. And whatever you're doing, I would hope that is just simply in your best interest and not because you fear what somebody's going to do to you. You know, and but Kanye, that dude, did you see his documentary?
I did not.
Man, you got to see his documentary. Like if you see his documentary, he's that same guy. And the other thing we should watch for now is he has enough money where he doesn't have to work with Adidas or Nike or anybody. He can do just like LeVar Ball was saying. He can just create his own brand. Like, I don't know all these other brands and Claiborne or whoever else, Rigavati and Raganagati. He can have Yeezy and open his Yeezy stores and make all the money and not have to just take a percentage. Because at one time he left Nike because they were like, they just wanted to give him a flat rate. And that's all we giving you. He said, okay, well, he's so stupid. He leaving Nike. Don't he see how much money they made Michael Jordan? If Michael Jordan is a billionaire, then they've made $100 billion off of Michael Jordan.
Right.
Not more than that.
So my only point is it's happening again because our people choose to have a reaction to the narrative. In this case, it's the opposite. We are reacting to the narrative and not paying attention to the storyline. The real issue here. So that's something I just wanted to put on the table.
That's beautiful, brother. That's a very interesting thought that you share with us. And like I said, we have to be careful because every time one of our, own is exalted because of their great gifts, something happens to them. They either, people are saying now that why they did this to Bill Cosby, because he wanted to buy, something. And a couple times, every time there was a story that I was reading in with some in an interview, some dude was saying that he knew Bill Cosby for a long time, and that wasn't the first time they tried to criminalize him. Before, when he tried to do something, and then when he backed off, the charges went away. He tried to buy something else, he was criminalized again. He backed away from buying, the charges went away. And I guess this time the same thing with Michael Jackson. I guess he had a lot of stuff going on that people didn't know about, and trying to buy things that I guess I don't even know how to put it, Stan. I guess we're trying to buy things that we're not supposed to. I don't know what kind of what is the how do we present that, Griff?
This is what I see. I see the civil rights movement in effect. Meaning that what I see is white people continue to be our standard for what's best for us. And so, have you ever seen that show with Simon where you get the golden buzzer?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You ever seen a short where you see somebody that's extremely talented and then they get the golden buzzer? You get goosebumps. You can't not get goosebumps because every time somebody gets the golden buzzer, it's because they're super talented. So you watching, and they are super talented, and they get the golden buzzer, right? And you know that feeling you have when they get, you so happy for them. You don't know them from Adam, never even seen them
ready
before.
to almost cry.
Right, you be almost ready to cry, right?
Clapping at home.
You don't even know. You're sitting there crying.
Right.
You've been told the story. They're very good at what they do.
Man, let me tell you.
They're very
I
good.
done dropped a couple of tears on some of them Golden Buzzer scenes because I don't even watch the show.
Right.
But sometimes it'll come
up
across
on this,
my feed
yeah.
and I look and damn, it gets me every time. But it's a great feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so I listened to Jay-Z say he's working for the NBA. What was he supposed to be? The
ambassador or something like that.
Ambassador for
The NFL.
It was
The NFL?
No, it was the NBA, or I don't know, one of those. No, it was the
NFL.
NFL.
It was during that Kaepernick thing. I remember.
NFL. He was the ambassador.
He sold Kaepernick out.
He was that's a different story. But he was an ambassador for, because people could say Kaepernick sold out when he signed with Nike and got all that money and just did the Afro revolutionary looking commercials and whatnot. Really,
He was just looking out for his own
but
best
anyway,
interest, brother.
well, you're supposed to. I would say you're supposed to.
You know what I mean, Stan?
So it's a whole bunch of different dynamics associated with that. But Jay-Z signed to be this representative or ambassador for
NFL.
no, but it was specific, a title.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can't think of the name.
consultant?
No.
But
But the point that I'm trying to make is I can't help but think about how many people they have the power to make feel that way. And how good they would feel making those people feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And they choose not to. You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you not want to feel that good while at the same time making others feel incredibly great? They can march across the country in black neighborhoods, and there are organizations like Kamura's organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody come and drop $150,000 on her organization. This is not millions, but $150,000 for her organization would be a world. I mean, the work she does and all that kind of stuff, it would be incredible.
Yes.
And then, I mean, and you can feel great doing it. And then they would be immensely helped with all of the things they want to do. So just imagine you have the power to go across the country doing that. And if you're a billionaire, it might cost you a few $1 million.
At
But the
most.
feeling associated with doing that is you can't buy it. You can't pay for it. It's just incredible. So that's one of the things I wonder about those guys. Like how
the billionaire folk.
Yeah, like black billionaires
Right.
who started out scuffling in the hood. You know what it's like. You know what the community organizers are doing. You know how they always need money and donations and they trying to make things happen. And you have the juice card, man,
To empower a whole lot of people.
to empower so many people and feel good doing it,
Right.
and make so many other people feel good while you're doing it, and they just don't.
That's a good point. You know, I think that people. I think there's a level of success that you are allowed to attain depending upon who you are or what circles you're in, and then that's it. You ain't going no further. And if you get it twisted, they'll remind you just about who you are.
Now, did you see that word? You use the word success.
As
One
people
of-
define success.
One of the biggest challenges for black people in America is we have yet to define success in a way that serves us. We still look
Looking
at
the
Obama
the
and
white
say,
fence.
I I feel so good because now my kids know they could be the president.
Well, they can't be.
Who's success? Not only that, but that's not a success that's going to help them or their people or nothing. That's success defined by somebody else. And the key is when you strive for a success defined by somebody else, the best you can be is a servant to the people who define success.
Well, and therein lies the issue. You will always be subservient to in the chasing the success metric that has been laid out for people. Because folk who are in the struggle and struggling, and we're all there at one time, but then all of a sudden they're no longer part of that. They have assimilated and been, what's the word I'm looking for?
Colonized.
No. Civil rights movement, part of that was to do integration. They've been integrated into that system.
The consciousness has been integrated. Right. That's the biggest thing.
So they are striving to reach whatever level someone set for them as a comparison trap. So they get caught up in the external comparison trap. Now, if they ever decide to do anything that's remotely outside of that paradigm, then it can all collapse. My poster child for this is the Trump. I don't care who you are, how rich you are, how powerful you are, how popular you are. If you get in and decide you're going to go a direction that they don't want you to go, they come after you with everything they have. He's just a little bit harder to take out than most people.
Well, this is the thing, right? I understand that. And there's this analogy I use where, we're operating as individual bees. We talked about this once before. And as individual bees, man, a child can grab something and whack us and slap us around. And because we're operating as frightened individual bees, then, yeah, we can be controlled with fear of what can be taken from us. But if we have people who, and because people have made major sacrifices, like Kanye once said, there are those of us who chose to remain enslaved, which is why so many of us are here today. They could have fought to the death. They could have jumped overboard, but they chose to remain enslaved. Now, just on that note, and in many cases concerned about their kids and all of that kind of stuff.
Continues to today.
Right. A lot of people have made a lot of sacrifices. And we clearly seem to be a generation or have generations who are so in fear then that the fear itself keeps us from doing what we can do to help ourselves. So if I saw all of these 100 millionaires and billionaires and Dr. Dre and all of them come together and just started going out here making this difference, doing this thing, there's no greater, quicker way that the beehive will form among the people. And so it's just like when you think you can go into a country and knock off the president and you had a country. That doesn't work in other countries. That technique doesn't work in other countries. That works in America because you have the systems in place to keep people in fear and separated. But when you're dealing with people moving from a common consciousness and mindset, then you probably just rather walk by that beehive, man. You got flamethrowers, you got all kind of stuff that can end the beehive. But because of the threat of the repercussions, you just rather tiptoe past it and hope for the best. And I'm saying that we we have all the potential to create a beehive. Even now, you know, some people say, well, it took 400 years to get us this way. It's going to take 600 years for us to recover and all that kind of stuff. That could be true. But if we weren't living and operating in so much fear, there are things that could happen today that can have an incredible impact on creating that beehive. And you do not want black people across the country moving in a common consciousness against you. So it's best to just leave us alone and let us do our thing and participate in this setup the best way we know how. But because we, like I said, the people who can make the difference continue to live in fear and under control, or have white people as our standard, then that's what makes it impossible for it to happen for us.
That's some beautiful thoughts by you, Brother Griff. Very, very well stated, man. Very grateful for those words, brother. And I'm sure that our viewers and our listeners are right there with me, man. You know? So creating that consciousness, we talk about that a lot. You know, and let's build on that. Let's continue to create a consciousness that's going to elevate us and exalt us so we can live the life that we were meant to live. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, our mindset determines the decisions we make, which in turn determine the actions we take. And I've said it 1,000 times right here on this program. In a society where you have haves and have-nots, there's always going to be violence. Now, the idea of making everybody a have is ridiculous. That's not going to happen because we got all of these different mindsets. So what we can do is make contributions to try to minimize violence. And in order to make a contribution to minimizing violence, it has to start with the mindset. Whatever else we want to do to minimize violence, the mindset has to be a part of that. Addressing the mindset has to be a part of it, because the mindset determines the decisions, which determine the actions. Mindset or consciousness, and all the other solutions or attempts. If you want to pray, do a vigil, I don't know, lay down in the street, wait on Jesus, whatever you want to do, that's cool. But the mindset of the people have to be a part of it. I think of religions in general. One of the things that religions and many religious people focus on is attracting and working on the mindset. And it seems this is the other thing. These movies, everything we see on our phones, everything we see on the computer, laptops, whatever, everything is in place to determine the decisions we make. Movies, you can't just go in there and call it entertainment. Everything that's being put out here is put out here to have an effect on the decisions we make, on our mindset.
Programming.
Algorithms.
We're being programmed.
And there's nothing wrong with being programmed. If we're being programmed in a way that is life affirming, that works out for everybody.
Yeah, I don't know about that, Griff. I don't want to be programmed, to anything. I just want to be myself.
Yeah.
All the way to the end.
You don't even realize it, though.
Listen
Yeah,
to what
no,
I
I
say.
understand that.
No, Lou, listen what I say when I talk about programming.
Yes.
When I talk about programming, I'm speaking in terms of whatever life foundation you move from is determined by the reality you operate in. So it could be self-programming. It could be programming from commercials, TV, whatever. Yes. At the end of the day, however you move is being determined by the foundation you move from. And the foundation you move from is what is going to dictate. And that is part of the programming as well. So that's what I mean when I say it.
Programming, yes.
So
I get that.
So if we are moving from a foundation of life-affirming behavior being behavior that improved the quality of who I am. That's my religion. That's my whole. When people ask me, well, are you religious? What religion are you? Well, my religion and my foundation, because I believe everybody's religion is the things they believe and how they live. That's your religion.
Ultimately.
So people ask me, my religion is life-affirming behavior that contributes to improving the quality of who I am. And so if I'm constantly working on improving the quality of who I am, it's only natural that every environment I walk in is better off because of my presence.
That is true.
And if, as individuals, we move based on life-affirming behavior, then things would constantly improve all around us. So somebody said, well, you need morals, you need rules, you need something. I said, I got all of that.
Those are just words.
But I understand what you mean. Well, what if somebody was such and such and this and that? I would ask myself, is that life-affirming behavior? Is that behavior that improves the quality of who I am and improves the quality of the reality that I'm in? And if it's not, then no, that's not sexy. And
that's not attractive.
That's not how I'm rolling. Well, now, so I don't necessarily need a lot of rules and laws, but I do know that we all need some kind of foundation we moving from, and that's the one that I chose to move from. And there's much more to it, but.
Well, I just hope you're getting this in the book because it's good stuff. Right now, you
Of
just put
course
out a lot
it's in
of
the
great
book.
information, man.
Of
I'm just
course
trying to
it's
give him
in
a
the
plug
book.
stand, you know.
It's
We're going
in
to give
the
our
book.
guy Griffith a plug, man. I want that book. I want him to
The book is on its way.
share that book with, you know,
It's
with our
on its-
community
it's on
so
its
we can
way.
all benefit from it. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
I like it.
It's on its way.
That's
And
what's up.
Yeah, it's definitely on its way. And there's man, I was reading it last night when I was going over one of the modules I finished, and I heard it from a elder brother, and I think it's one heck of a question. And the question is, what is it about me that I don't like that would allow for me to not do what's in my best interest?
That is a question. It's a question that the individual phrased, or is that something that's self-reflective?
Self-reflective.
So what is it about?
What is it about me that would allow me to not do what's in my own best interest? What is it about me that I don't like that would allow for me to not do what's in my own best interest?
So it's holding you back. What's holding you back about you?
No.
Yeah, like why am I making decisions that aren't in my best interest?
There could be many. There could be admirable reasons, and there could be reasons that are highly negative.
Okay, so now that's beautiful. I like the way you said that. There is no admirable reason.
You could sacrifice for your child. It's not in my best interest to jump in front of the bullet, but to save my child,
Okay.
I might do so. So
Okay, now-
that would be admirable.
Okay.
Well, Stan, you
Okay,
can
hold-
also
hold-
push
hold.
him out the way.
Wait. Let's
Well,
deal
you
with
know,
this.
But you know,
Hold it.
so I'm only trying to think of going.
I'm thinking about. Let's stay there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between doing what's in your best interest and there's a difference between doing what's in your best interest and thinking you're doing something for somebody else. So, for instance, when we do what's in our best interest, things work out
For
how
us.
we want it to be.
Right.
And we can also do what's in our best interest and find out afterwards that it didn't necessarily work out in our best interest. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I just wanted to just get that part.
Okay. So.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
everything we do, we believe is in our own best interest.
For the
So
most
when you jump in, no, not for the most part, 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
When you jump in front of the bullet for your child, that's for you. Because if you don't and they die, you in your mind then calculated what you're going to go through and how you're going to feel, all that kind of stuff. It's just natural. It's human nature. What I'm saying is, you don't jump in front of that bullet for your child absent of what you think is best for you.
Well, I mean, I made it personal, but the first thought that came to my mind would be force. You know,
I understand that.
force
So-
protection. So if you were assigned to protect a high value asset, whatever the case may be. So you know, as
high value asset. Gee,
So-
man. It's a human being, Stan.
well, some would some would
Stan
question
like
whether or
ex-CIA.
not some might question whether or not the president is a human being worth saving. But
Yeah, okay.
the individual that's assigned to protecting him would jump in front of the bullet.
Right.
It's not in his
It
best
is
interest.
in his best interest. Know why? Because he signed up for it.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, but just
So-
because you
so-
signed
so
up
you
for it
see-
don't mean
because
it's in your best interest.
He
though.
signed up
So
for it because it's in his best interest.
self-sacrifice is a way of pleasing the self.
Absolutely.
Right.
But
Okay.
let's go back a little bit.
So-
What's
All right.
wait,
All right.
wait,
Well,
wait,
okay.
wait, what was that?
That's. I will concede to that point.
Yes.
Because I am the one making this. I am
You-
sacrificing myself. No nobler. That's all in one own head. You
And-
know, you're making the grand sacrifice.
Right.
That's nothing to
But
do with anyone else.
You're not making
but
the
you.
grand sacrifice for nothing.
Right, for
You're
oneself.
making it for yourself.
Okay. So then we're back to the original question and thus the premise.
I just want to push back a little bit on something.
All right, go on.
Just because you sign up for something don't mean that it's in your best interest. I just want to put that out there.
Nah,
Okay, I would say that you don't do anything that you don't think is in your best interest.
Right.
If we were conscious,
You
I
are
would agree
conscious when you
100%.
sign up for something.
No.
We're not. We're listen,
Okay, well-
even us three right here, I gotta tell you, we're not really conscious like that. We talk like we are,
Well-
but we're not at that level yet.
Well,
I
you
can
kind of
tell you.
moving the narrative over. What I want to do is just stay with the narrative.
Okay.
The narrative is everything you do it because you believe it's in your best interest.
I'll go
So
along
now,
with that.
I would say if you don't believe that, then name something that you think you've done that's not necessarily for you.
Well, I think that we all do stuff every day that's not our best interest, especially as black and brown people. We support a lot of things that are not in our best interest.
We do it because it's in our best interest,
We do
and
it-
then and then we find out sometimes that it doesn't work out in our best interest. But the initial action and movement is because we believe it's in our best
Right.
interest.
And once again, just because you believe it's in your best interest, like you so aptly stated, as you move down the road, you may find out that it was not in your best interest.
Right, but
at the
to
time-
the original premise.
Right.
But just because you think, that's all I'm saying. Just because you think something is in your best interest, you may find out down the road
That it wasn't.
a few seconds later, years or whatever, that it really wasn't.
Right.
Yes,
It
that's my
doesn't
point.
change the premise, which is everything we do is because we think it's in our best interest.
And I'll accept that.
Yeah.
Right.
For
That's the starting
for
point.
the sake of the conversation.
Right. For the as a starting point,
Yes.
it's in the best interest. Now, I shouldn't have signed up for this. This is not working out the way I thought
You
it
have
would.
regrets.
Right. So it's no longer in my best interest,
Well,
or my interest has changed. So now I want to get out of the
And
deal.
you can't have regrets unless you had expectations that it was
Right.
in your best interest.
Right. So the deeper the regret, the stronger the expectation
The higher,
was,
yeah.
or the higher
That
the
it was in
expectation
your
was, it
best
was in your
interest.
best interest. So that
Right.
that undermines what
And
what you were saying.
see that
Yeah, yeah.
is one of the challenges for us, because
But you said why do you hate the original?
No.
What is it about me?
is it about me
that I dislike,
that I
that I don't do what's in my best interest?
dislike myself? What is it about me? What is it that I dislike about myself that would allow me to do something that's not in my best interest?
All right.
Now, this is the general
Mm-hmm.
general look at it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, you get a phone call
Mm-hmm.
from somebody you don't want to talk to,
Mm-hmm.
and you listen to them for an hour and you're suffering for the whole hour.
Oh
Mm.
my God.
Mm.
The question is, what is it about me that I don't like about myself that would allow me to do something that is not in my best interest? Now,
You don't like confrontation.
the question begs you to identify what's inside you that believes it's a benefit to listen to this conversation.
Okay, well that's a good example because I get lots of calls during the day.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, well,
So it's
obligation-
a self-examination.
right. I think the obligation, there's an obligatory, or I'm obligated because of X to listen, even though I may not want to.
And I'm saying,
But that would be in my best interest.
and I'm saying, the real question still goes back to,
what is it about?
what is it that you feel is beneficiary by doing? Because you're doing it
there's a
because you think
benefit.
it's in your best interest.
Right. There's a benefit.
So you doing it because you think it's in your best interest. And then the question is, what is it that we don't like about ourselves that would allow us to do something that we know?
As people are saying here, is a great question, and I do believe it is a great question. I'm not so sure though that you have to hate or dislike yourself in order to necessarily.
Yeah, I've been going through this thing.
You think there's a dislike of something.
Because it's called compromising your self-respect. Anything that we do that we allow to happen for an extended period of time that we don't like,
Mm-hmm.
in that moment we're compromising our self-respect.
Well, while I will allow most people to come into my house, there are 5 people that if they ever show up at the door as guests or anything else, they will be told you can't come up in here.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not make that compromise.
Well, that particular compromise. But this is the question.
But there are
Have
so
you
is
ever
a
endured
compromise
something that you didn't like and you were uncomfortable with for an extended period of time?
Not for an extended period of time.
No,
but,
let me tell you.
but
an
yes.
extended period of time is for a moment.
Well, then, yeah.
10 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so in that moment, or 5 minutes or 10 minutes,
Mhm.
we are compromising our self-respect. The way we feel lets us know that we're compromising our self-respect. And that's the part, that's the not like ourselves.
That's
part.
the innate.
Well, I mean, I don't know how one gets around it, because let's say you are in service to somebody, like, an elected official.
This is beautiful.
And that individual can't stand your presence.
I know exactly what
And
you're talking
so,
about.
but they've been elected to represent you, and therefore, they, to the best of their ability, they do so, though they don't particularly like you. So there's a lot of compromising, an awful lot.
See, this is the thing.
But you're suggesting that comes from a place of there's something within the individual that they don't like about themselves.
Anytime you compromise your self-respect, that's an indication that you don't like yourself. So now, these things being true, according to Alfonso.
Right. We can bring this back to your movie situation.
These things being true, according to Alfonso. Check this out. It's not a matter of being right. It's a matter of us being aware when it's going on. Being conscious of what we're doing. Right now, I am conscious and aware of the fact that I am compromising my self-respect. There's also something in here that is telling me that I'm benefiting from it. Because if I didn't think I was going to benefit from it, I wouldn't be doing it. But it's a difference to go through this and not be aware technically, literally, of things that are going on versus being aware. Because guess what? We start making much better decisions about why we're doing stuff. You know what I mean? When we're conscious of exactly what's happening. When we're conscious of demonstrating we don't like ourselves by compromising our self-respect.
All right, that point.
So just I just want to add a couple things real quick. The first one is that in terms of what you said about the 5 people, Stan, I believe life is all situational. You would allow any one of the 5 people in your house in the right situation.
There is no situation.
Absolutely. If
they were on fire and needed me to get them the bucket of water.
But if they have something, listen, if they have something to save you or your kids, your wife or something like that, you wouldn't even think about that. So to me, life is situational. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, there's
it's like
exceptions.
They say bad people. I don't believe there are bad people. I believe that people are in bad situations. I can take you out of a situation and put you somewhere else and people won't even know you. Because everything that you were is different now.
Okay, I will. Yeah, if the person, I guess you can find a
loophole.
A loophole or an exception. There's always an exception, but as in general,
they wouldn't come in.
they may not even know that they're on that list.
Exactly.
They'd find out when
and
they got here.
It's better like that sometimes.
Right.
Too.
When they got here, they'd find out.
Yeah. But yeah, so I would just say that, Fonz, to that. Situations sometimes can dictate how we behave.
Well, I appreciate what Alfonso is presenting and to be aware of. So I am aware of if we use the phone call. I just believe that
consciousness and awareness are 2 different things.
Well, I am aware.
And we're throwing those words around, and I think that people. I just wanted to say that.
Right.
Not to confuse our listeners and our viewers.
Okay, so I am aware of. Relative to what Alfonso was just talking about, I am aware this is a situation that I'd rather not be in. So I will tell people that you have 5 minutes of my time. But I believe that everyone, even if they're people I don't really want to be engaged with, deserves a return phone call. So I call them back, even though I know this is going to be a trial and tribulation getting through this conversation. Even if it's like the worst conversation that's going to be had, and I don't necessarily want to talk to them, they deserve a return phone call. So the benefit to me is personal integrity, whatever the case might be.
At the end of the
So
day,
there is a benefit
for you,
because no one does something they don't want to do, and it comes right down to it. People will.
That's a little different.
People don't. They don't do what
Now,
at some point.
That's different, because I believe people do
Be self-destructive.
kind of do what they don't want to do. Like when our ancestors were enslaved, they were kind of doing what they didn't want to do, but they accepted it for their own reasons.
There was a self-benefit by definition, because earlier
Survival.
you made the.
But it's
you made
not like they didn't want to do it, though.
right. Well, a lot of things, See,
that's why
there are those who decide it would be better for me to jump into the sea or die. To your point about what Kanye was
And they
saying,
did
and
the
people
same thing.
chose slavery.
they did the same
They
thing.
didn't choose slavery. They chose to stay alive to look for freedom.
They chose to remain
different-
enslaved.
Right.
That's
They
a
chose
different
to
narrative.
I
remain
stand corrected on that.
remain
To
enslaved.
remain enslaved.
They didn't choose slavery, right?
Right.
They did it because they always looked for the chance to free themselves.
Whatever their reason was, they chose it.
Right.
They chose to remain
We make
enslaved.
choices, and choices have consequences. We're hoping that there's a benefit to the consequence, or benefit to the choice, which will be something that's positive, but that's not always the case.
Yes. And so I just want to say, Stan, that I really enjoyed today's conversation with Alfonso, man. He brings in that peace that we all yearn for with his words, and with the way that he presents himself. I think that we could all learn so much from him. So I want to state that publicly, Alfonso, to let you know that, you are held in high esteem, brother, because of all the knowledge that you bring, brother.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And we all in the same boat. We all alive. Those of us who are alive, and we all trying to figure this thing out.
That's beautiful.
Called life.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Well, our time together has come to an end, as it does each and every day, unfortunately. So we press our way, and we'll do it again next time. Bill Costin said Griff hit the nail on the head.
Yes. Yes.
Big Bill. All right.
Well, to all our listeners and our viewers, thank you so much, and blessings to all our community. May you all have a wonderful rest of the week. Continue to grow, continue to build, and continue to do the best that you can. Peace, family. Yes.
All right. Any last words there, Mr. McGriff?
Life can be wonderful.
All right.
I'll take it.
All right. All right, my friends. We'll see you next time. You all have a great rest of your day. We will see you real soon. Bye.